myself, I would trade the Washington Monument for the UT Tower any day. I thought Pennsylvania Avenue might be the power corridor, but it lacks the character and the Tex-Mex restaurants of South Congress. And who needs the Potomac River when you have Lady Bird Lake, right? So as I tell my fellow Beltway insiders, this Capitol building is taller, thinner, younger, and prettier than the national one, even if she needs a facelift every 122 years. There's really something special about this place. And I've often heard some of you uncles and aunties talk about India with a sense of reverence. You speak of the land, the very dirt on which you were born, as if it were your mother, when you call it your Matra Bhumi. And I didn't quite understand that connection to a piece of land until I had to leave Austin 11 years ago. Although I don't think anybody from Austin would call this city our mother, it's more like our weird hippie uncle who never used to wear a tie, but recently started ironing his shirts and wearing a blazer every now and then. Don't think I haven't noticed the changes. In the 10 years since I've been gone, you plopped a major national bank in the middle of downtown, right? But I'm not here to get political, because in fact, I got a specific message from our friends at SALT that I am supposed to be nonpartisan today, so I will abide. I don't know why they were worried. I just spent the last 10 years electing Democrats. I'm standing in front of the most powerful state capital in the nation, and we're 1 month out from a major national election. Why on earth would I be political? So I will use my political rhetoric for tomorrow, for Sunday, because it's the Lord's Day, and I'll choose to talk about something less controversial today. I'm going to talk about religion. Because the thing about God is that God loves politics. And for those of you who aren't sure that there is a God, let me just point out that Rick Sanchez got fired from CNN yesterday, so there is more evidence for the believers among us. And for those of you who still need convincing, the Texas OU game starts in about half an hour, so we'll see proof of God in just a few minutes. Now look, I have a somewhat warped view of religion because I am Jain, and growing up in Central Texas, we didn't have a lot of easy options for Jain temples. So my parents used to send us to Sunday school with the Hindu kids. Which, by the way, what other religion would do that? Can you imagine going to your Catholic priest and him telling a parishioner, sorry, there's no cathedrals in your neighborhood, but maybe check out the Mormons down the road? That's what's special about our Eastern faith. And in Jainism, as much as we talk about nonviolence and detachment from materialism, I learned that it's the Hindu kids who have more fun. Because your gods come in a variety of ice cream flavors. You have French vanilla Brahma, you have lemon lime sherbet Shiva, the very berry blue blast Vishnu, and of course banana Rama. Hinduism is delicious. But it was only as I grew older that I recognized the specialness of my childhood experience. Because in a world where religious extremists cling to the notion that my God is the only God, it is the Eastern faiths, Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, Taoism, and Baha'i, that look for universality and for oneness among all religions. So it got me thinking about this notion of what does God want from us? I'm not allowed to tell you if God is a Democrat or a Republican. It's not that I don't know, I'm literally not allowed to tell you. But what I do know is that God believes we have a moral responsibility to care for one another. The Jews refer to this as tikkun olam, healing the world by performing mitzvahs, or acts of kindness. One of the pillars of Islam is to offer a zakat, an alm for the poor. Jesus said, "Blessed are the poor, for they shall inherit the earth." He was also a big fan of the peacemakers. He referred to them as the children of God. And in the Gita, Lord Krishna says, "Vasudev Kutumkum," the idea that all the world is God's family. Again and again, the theme arises that we are beholden to one another, that we are bound together as billions of colorful threads of fabric in the tapestry that we have created. And what we memorialize today is not Mahatma Gandhi or his famous quote that echoes across the century. Today, we celebrate a faith that unites all of us, more than any religion, any language, any custom, or any ideology. It is the faith of civic responsibility, the faith of community. It is the faith that teaches us to think globally, but act locally. Your acts of service today remind all of us that what happens in the barrios of East Austin has a direct impact on the families of Round Rock and Pflugerville. We can be a city of ideas, but the real legacy of today will be in the acts of good that you did, not in the words that I say about it. Texas is right now one of the largest and fastest growing economies in the world. We are home to 57 of the Fortune 500 companies, more than any other state in the nation. Last year, our exports exceeded $160 billion, and that was just in the first 6 months. And of the 20 largest states in the country, we are the only one who's had a net gain of jobs in the last 4 years. We're proud of our Texas. But look below the city on the shining hill, because among the 50 states, we are dead last in the percent of adults with high school diplomas. We rank 46 out of 50 in SAT scores. We're number 1 in children without health insurance and number 3 in the percentage of people living below the poverty line. And we pour more toxic chemicals into our water than any other state. You know, my fellow Texans, more than 40 years ago, a great president from this state declared a war on poverty. Poverty, which Mahatma Gandhi said more than violence was the greatest evil in the world. But there are others out there who believe that it's not a war on poverty, it should be a war on poor people. And to them I say, we disagree. We can all do better, and that's why you're here. That's why your acts of volunteerism and service are so important, not just to your community, but to the world. We need to remind one another, and sometimes even ourselves, of our better angels, and especially right now. Look, I don't need to tell you that we all live in tough economic times. And I've come back from Washington where our president and our leaders are working hard to fix it, but the truth of the matter is, we are the ones we've been waiting for. With 15.1 million Americans out of work, the picture may look bleak. And even a couple of weeks ago, a group of economists told us that the recession actually ended a year ago. Well, when you're out of work, it's not a recession, it's a depression. And the truth is that tough times call on us to do more, not less. They call on us to expand, not downsize. They call on us to raise expectations and not lower them. And central to this notion is something that we don't talk about enough. We don't talk about sacrifice. It's one thing to talk about change. Sure, go out and be the change you wish to see in the world. But change can be both a creative force and a destructive one. A phoenix can rise from the ashes, but first, there have to be ashes. So do you want to live in an interconnected global village? Fine. But then you can't expect fences and walls to define our borders. You want to spread the values of democracy and freedom in the Middle East? Great. But first, be ready to stand up for those same freedoms and values at every synagogue, every church, every temple, and every mosque from Tennessee to Lower Manhattan. You want to build an information superhighway? Great. But remember that some idiot is going to build a misinformation super byway that can spread hate and lies at the speed of a keystroke. And do you want to build the jobs of the new economy? Wonderful. But first tell the people who work the jobs of the old economy how they're supposed to survive, how they're supposed to care for their families. My friends, change comes at a price, and that price is sacrifice. We don't talk about it enough, and we should. And if this great recession has taught us anything, let it be that we cannot go back to the way things used to be. We shouldn't want to. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So here, on these steps, on this day, let us all take a pledge to sanity. Let us find our moment of awakening and say that being the change in the world means we must first change ourselves. So go out. Be the change you wish to see in the world. And while you're at it, be willing to make the sacrifices the world wishes to see in you. Thank you very much. And now for something completely different.